Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren, and this summer I was working on artificial intelligence and machine learning applications to research processes. So my presentation will be in these 4 parts: introduction, proposed methods, findings, and next steps. So with our problem, there were multiple separate databases where Cook Inlet Tidal information was stored, resulting in the same queries being performed in all of these databases. And the results that would come up were sort of irrelevant, raising issues with the searching algorithms and the potential metadata that was generating those results. So that made common research procedures really inefficient, and it provided a long array of problems that we could potentially optimize. So our goal became enhancing the research process through applications of artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques to optimize access and searchability of Cook Inlet Tidal data. And the motivation was the drive to enhance access to Cook Inlet Tidal data stems from the challenges of scattered resources and suboptimal query outcomes. AI and ML techniques offer solutions to refine metadata, align user intent with results, and ultimately empower researchers to extract more valuable insights from their own efforts, resources, and critical data sets. Okay. So for our proposed methods, we started by laying out the research process and looking at all the places where we could find optimizations using AI ML techniques that already existed. And it turns out they could be applied just about everywhere. So this presented scoping and finding out a path and technique where we could start and bite off a chunk for starting to do some of these optimizations. So to dive in, our first thought was to create our own database, to sort of create a conglomerate database, scraping all of the current databases that we wanted to collect resources from, and create our own search model on top of that. So to begin that process, we looked into the databases and what sort of metadata they might be considering, and if they used APIs and other support mechanisms for writing their code and generating their search results, and finding how accessible those would be to integrate into our own code. However, we found that searching algorithms are highly complex and often kept private, and metadata is a critical aspect of these search algorithms where we could focus for making more tangible improvements. So this was a really critical moment where we had to sort of pivot and scale down the project a bit. And so from that, we found that creating a custom database and search engine was way out of scope, given the time, skills, and resources necessary for this task, and it was deemed too ambitious, and something less intense could make a more meaningful impact. So metadata extraction seemed like a more promising route for making improvements to the search process. And so with that, we looked at approaching individual documents and seeing what we could scrape from those. So we thought of finding AI ML applications where we could interact with these documents, get them to generate better metadata, better abstracts, and see if we could use those to create an ultimately better search process. So to do this, we looked at some document analysis softwares that use their own algorithms, such as ChatPDF, ChatGPT, and Humata. And from these, we found that AI ML applications are on their way to offering features that can easily enhance document metadata, but most publicly accessible GPT applications are facing similar challenges, but rapid improvements are being made and new software updates are being released every day. So some of these problems that we faced with trying to extract the metadata using these AI ML applications like GPT, and these are examples from Humata, where they would just produce really redundant results that wouldn't be super useful for improving a search algorithm. So we could see if we asked for 100 points of keywords, once it passed 50, they just became the same thing, fish population, followed by random words that it was scraping from the article. And so those wouldn't be super helpful for enhancing a search algorithm. And then also we asked for improved abstracts, so then those could be used for better rankings and search results. However, they didn't produce necessarily better abstracts. It would kind of just chunk and paste different parts of these papers into a new abstract, showing that there's a lot of room for improvement for these GPT algorithms that are being used that we can't manually do ourselves. And then also we thought of exploring knowledge graphs to see if we could find some keywords and how they're connected, giving values to the different relationships in the paper. However, this was a pretty intensive process where the relationships between each of the words were given a weight based on some of the grammatical values of the conjunctions used in the paper. And so that's what led to all these connections. And we can find the really jumbled knowledge graph on the left. That is what happens if we didn't filter out any of the data and it just showed us the connections raw, I guess, without any filtering or tweaking. And so then it took a lot of intensive and unique toggling with the knowledge graph algorithm and code to get it to something that's not only like legible, but also understandable and could potentially provide value. So through this knowledge graph exploration, we were able to see that potential value is there with scraping these keywords from documents. However, it's not easy and it's not a generalized application that we could really pursue. So the takeaway was that AI/ML document processing and comprehension is in the works and could provide some very powerful tools. However, the technology is not yet fully comprehensive nor easily integratable into other applications. So the next steps for using AI/ML tools to improve our research processes. We should learn about and embrace the tools that are out there. So some of the things listed in here, like Chat PDF, even just Chat GPT, if we can learn how to use them and just find their flaws with redundancy and sometimes generating false information when we ask for questions, and they have really specific weak spots like references. All of this is really well documented. And if we can just become familiar with that and harness the power of the tools, it can be really great for content generation and text editing and helping you with emails and everything. So we're on the way to those being really well integrated into our lives in a way that's going to be easy and digestible. But this project took on a big, ambitious task where the technology isn't always there to support it. However, it's coming out, or new applications are being developed every day, and subscribing to some newsletters for AI, if you're interested in that, could really provide some applications that could save you a lot of time in your day-to-day, although it can be really overwhelming at first. And so in conclusion, I experienced the rapid pace of artificial intelligence and machine learning technology development this summer, practiced scoping out projects and determining what's capable given time, skills, and resources, became familiar with 20+ APIs through the process of coding document processing applications, and saw areas for growth in the field and ways to improve public understanding. Thank you. Cool.
So how does generating new content help with the problem of there being so much content already?
Why is it a problem that there's so much content already?
Well, like it's more content than any human can digest. So like, how does that help the initial?
Yeah, humans can't digest it, but the more content that you feed to a model, in theory, the stronger it should become. And so then through that, I mean, it'll find some interesting sort of optimization path that will make it more digestible for you. So I think a good example to think of might be like with Humata. It's a software where you could upload like PDFs up to 60 pages and you could have like a chat conversation with it. So it can be really helpful in that way, where it combines like the prior knowledge base that it was trained on with the specific knowledge base of that 60-page PDF. And then it can conceptualize things in a way that's much bigger than like we could do on our own with like the human brain. And that's what definitely its strength is, that it can recall things in a much faster and more optimized way than a human ever could. So if you're open to leaning into that, it could provide a lot more knowledge and resources faster than you could by yourself. Yeah, did that answer?
So what I think you're saying is it can generate like summary of all those. So
Totally.
it makes it more digestible.
Yeah, absolutely. If you asked it for like from that 60-page document, if you asked it for a 1-page summary, a 1-paragraph summary, or a 1-sentence summary, it could find an optimized path to do that. Right now, I mean, no promises that it would be like useful or like make a lot of sense. And I think a lot of the individual softwares like Humata or ChatGPT offer like papers on like what their shortcomings are, which is like often giving untrue information or biases. So those are definitely there and something to be aware of, but
or omitting like critical information. Sometimes.
Yeah,
you just
totally.
can't- Sometimes you just can't summarize.
Yeah, in one sentence. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there's absolutely risks with using it, but potential benefits as well that could be huge.
Have one online. You ask Mariella to unmute.
Yeah. Mariella, can you unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, hey. I was wondering, like you talked about the importance of learning an AI's weaknesses so that it can be like more useful to us. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about like how to start finding and noticing those weaknesses.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky because a lot of companies try to hide or overestimate how good and strong their models are. So a really good company would be public with their, misuse cases or their fears. And OpenAI, who makes ChatGPT, is a really good example where they provide a little warning right when you open up the website saying like, it has the tendencies to provide untrue information and present bias and like do all of that. And yeah, the burden is really an ethically questionable space right now where I think data is very unregulated. And so companies have no obligation to tell you we have these flaws and problems and tendencies with our models. Yeah, and they don't have to make that information public. And so it's good and helpful to search and hope that they provide that sort of information. Yeah, and I think also there are some people doing research just on like pitfalls of AI, ML, and GPT applications. And so it's just like something good to be aware of and to not fully put your trust in it. Yeah. I don't know if that fully answered it, but it's just something good to keep on your mind, I think, and explore other resources as well that are more reliable. I think to fact check it yourself is probably one of the safest options.
Awesome, thanks.